So here I am joined with Bryan Lacey, the commentator for Oktagon MMA. Bryan, thank you for joining me today. How are you feeling, mate?
I'm good. I'm feeling hot like the rest of the country,
Yeah.
mate. But it's we've just been discussing it. I quite enjoy it. I quite like the heat. I think everyone's a little bit happier in the sun, and yeah, it's been a nice day, mate.
Couldn't have said it better myself, mate. Just to begin, mate, just want to kind of get to know how you got into commentating for a promotion like Oktagon.
Yeah, so I've done commentary for other promotions, obviously around Europe. Done some in America as well. But I spotted Oktagon. That's what genuinely happened because it kept coming up on my feed, these shows, and I saw the size of them. It was crazy, like these full arenas, fighters honestly up until this point I'd never heard of. People that like Andre Novotny, who does the announcing, but he's also one of the owners. Like him, he was always in the promos and things like that. So they caught my eye like a long time ago, and I thought, like, I watch a lot of MMA. I watch a lot of fighting. I watch this wherever I can watch the sport or any type of combat sports. I'm always tuning in, and it kind of caught my eye. And we're speaking about the heat. That's my dog, by the way, having a drink over there. If you can hear that.
No worries, mate.
That's it. She's allowed. She's 13. I don't want her to keel over during this
Oh, of
interview.
course not.
That'd make it very emotional. But but so I just spotted them, and I'd obviously I was commentating for other promotions, and in lockdown there was no way of getting anywhere or traveling, and they kept doing shows. So I kept seeing these different events that they were putting on. They put on. And they were all behind closed doors to start with. There was like Octagon Underground, which is like modified MMA rules to sort of lean towards the stand-up styles. Then they started to do them in the Bobby Hall, the Bobby Centrum, and they were great shows. Like they did this whole circus thing. And I'd seen one where they'd done, this was Octagon 15, where they did Vermola versus Attila Vey as the main event. And I watched the promo, I watched the thing, the camera come in, and the crowd was like 20,000 people.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell is this? Why don't? So I just messaged them. I literally sent out a message. I said, absolutely love what you're doing. I said, obviously I can't understand exactly the stories of the fighters, but the way it looks and the shows, and just introduced myself that way. And it was from there that me and Pavel got talking, the other owner, Pavel Neruda. And he said, why don't you come over and do a show? And I was like, yes, please, let's do that. So that's kind of how it all began.
Yeah. I mean, something you just said yourself about kind of the stories between the fighters, something that Oktagon have recently created that kind of highlights that a bit more is Oktagon Hype. Can you just explain to the fans that might not know what it is, just about what that is?
Yeah, so it's basically, and again, I'd sat with them and talked to them about the show. They said, what can we do differently? What is it that we could do to make this show better? And actually the production, the matchmaking, the events themselves, that it's ready made. They're huge in Slovakia and the Czech Republic. They're massive. So all they need to do is find a way of engaging with like the English speaking audiences, and English is the language of sport, whether it's combat sports or football or anything like that. English is sort of the one that gives you that transition from being a sort of like small promotion into a bigger, wider one. And so from the adding English commentary to all the events, they've now invested in doing this magazine show, which I get to host every 2 weeks. And it's, for me, it's a treat because I get to share with people that have never experienced Oktagon what it is, who the personalities are, who the key fighters are, why this fight's exciting. And it's fun because I feel like I'm letting people into a secret. I feel like there's nothing bad I can be giving you. If you're into combat sports, everything that I'm going to tell you, you're going to go, I had no idea who that was, but I want to watch their next fight. Or I had no idea the show was that big. I need to see another event. So the idea of the magazine show is to try and engage more of the English speaking audience, but also it's a guilty pleasure for me because I get to sit there and sort of let people know what I've now been part of for over a year. And yeah, super exciting.
Yeah. And kind of how do you think that show itself will kind of transform Oktagon on a global scale? How much do you think that will push it on that sort of international scale?
No pressure, mate. No, it's all on the shoulders of Oktagon Hype.
Of course, not. It's just another segment of pushing what is already 100%. An amazing show.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be like, I'm hoping, and it's not probably the correct or the right terminology or example to use. I'm hoping it's like the gateway drug. I'm hoping it's kind of like gives people a taste, and
Yeah,
they go, oh wow, I didn't know the shows were that big, or I didn't know that guy fought there, or I didn't know this was his story or her story. So I'm hoping what it does is catches people's eyes, and then from there slowly draws them in. I mean, we're not going to change people's mind in one show or with
no,
one bit of promo or one thing targeted at an English audience. It's got to be consistent, and I think that's the game now. We kind of are going to put these full plates of MMA food in front of people and just let them dig in when they're ready. But it's it's very exciting, and I'm hoping it will be a big part of getting more fans involved, because the shows that they sell out, I mean, the smallest show they do, and they sell it out every year, is 7,500 people. Their end of year show last year, when they put that on sale, they put it on sale, I think it was on August. By September, 20,000 tickets had gone. But that's without a fight announced. So that's how big they are in their native country. And when you look at how they tell the stories of the fighters, and that's a big part of why they're so successful. Everyone asks me what is it they do differently and why are they so big there. They spend so much time telling us, the fans, the audience, the stories of the fighters, and that's what got me into combat sports. Of course, I loved the you could stick it on TV and I'll watch it.
yeah,
But when I was a kid, when I was watching fights with, like, and show my age, like Frank Bruno, Barry McGuigan, Chris Eubank, Nigel Benn, who's their sons are just getting ready to fight now. It was all about the story. It was all about where they were from. It was all about, what they had to go through to get to that point. And that's what they do. They're TV-based people. And I think what they'll do, and if we can get some more European fighters, some more English fighters, Irish fighters, Scottish, Welsh, American, I think if they start telling the stories again, it'll be another way that will draw more people in.
yeah. I mean, we've obviously touched on how big the shows are and how unique they are. Octagon 34, which obviously was just incredible. Just seeing that kind of play out, and the promotion towards that, obviously the Terminator versus the Joker. How was that for you to call that fight, and how unique of an event was that for you? 'Cause you did call it the Super Bowl of MMA.
Yeah, well, and it is. It's the arena itself. It is one of the draws. It is a summer festival. Like, it's a summer festival for the MMA fans out there. It's in this. If people haven't seen it, it's in a basically it's a tennis court, an arena, but it's open air, and it's beautiful. It's like a coliseum. And what they've done is, year on year, they've built the production. They've added to it. Like this year, we had a halftime show, which I honestly thought, I wasn't sure it was going to work.
No.
And I went to they took me to the dress rehearsal in the evening, and it was about 11 o'clock at night. They were running through all this stuff, and I was watching this band, and they were amazing. They were really good, but I still didn't quite know how we would go from fighting to now let's watch a band. And the way, because the energy of the crowd, and it was liquid, it was fluid, it was basically the fight stopped and the band started, and it was like a festival. There was a Mexican wave that just kept going around the arena. The music was phenomenal, and again, it's one of those moments, and you kind of asked what it was like to call it. I've had a few moments in my in sort of my very lucky career in combat sports where I look around and I take that deep breath and I go, I've got to remember this. This is a moment I got to be hearing, not my phone out, not anything else, just remember this. And that night was one of them. It was more than just a night of fights. It was like a celebration of the fighters. It was a celebration of, and again, it was still, we're still coming out of the lockdown stuff. It's all, that getting back into the real world, and with what they did, and they spend so much money trying to make the show better.
Yeah.
They always, Pavel and Andrea sat there and they're like, what should we do? And they joked, they half joked about this halftime show last year, and they said, well, it's going to cost us a fortune. And they went, we got to do it. They had everybody wearing these wristbands that Coldplay, the famous that Coldplay gave it to their audience, and it cost a fortune. But they gave every member of the audience one of these bands, and it's all synced with the lights. There's a guy running the lights for everything. So like there's nothing that no detail that they won't push to try and make the experience better. And that's for me what, when I've called fights in other places, it's what I feel is different. Everyone goes, what is different?
Yeah.
That's different. They will try and find a way, not just to make more money, but to make the experience for the people that are either there or watching at home, something that they kind of go away with. So yeah, it was super, mate. It was a magical night.
Yeah, I mean, you've just touched on it there. It's something that it is completely different to what any other promotion does. And a lot of frustration with some of these big promotions is that they just don't quite push their events so much. I mean, one of those being Bellator, that a lot of fans complain that you don't know that there's a card until the night of the fight. And that's just something that doesn't happen with Oktagon. Do you think that those the smaller promotions may kind of start looking at Oktagon and trying to kind of imitate that?
I just hope they do. It's not one of those things where I think, no, this should be us.
Yeah.
Like for me, the thing that the people that really bear the benefit of what Oktagon do, which is the storytelling, which is building the fights, building the events, are the fighters.
Yeah.
And it should be the fighters that get everything. It should be the fighters that reap the rewards of the fan base, the adulation, the highs and the lows of what the event, that moment in their lives, because they're the ones that do all the sacrificing, the training. And this was my first, when I did my first event for Oktagon, I think it was Oktagon 23 or 24. And I remember they sent me the fight card, and I always do the research and I look into the fights and I try and get as much background. I go on social media, I do as much to kind of get as much info as I can. And first of all, what I found out is with Oktagon, there's loads that I could look at, and I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. So I could tell the story about their home life, or injuries that they've come through. I could go right back to old interviews that had been translated and get loads of info. But then the thing that caught my eye was, I think it was the co-main event. The co-main event had a fight where there was a fighter that was 9-12, so 9 wins, 12 losses, against a fighter that was 9-9. Now that was it was like a co-main. It was like, so it's right into the main card, and I'm looking at it, and you're like, with those records, like the first thing you look at for fighters that you don't know is the record. And I thought, why are they so far up the card? Why are they? And then I went and did my research, and I looked at their social media, and they had hundreds of thousands of followers. And these are guys that had been in the TV series that they do. They do a reality TV show called Oktagon Challenge, and it's very similar to the Ultimate Fighters. They live in a house and they fight and they compete for a contract. But on top of that, they've got to do these crazy challenges. So they'll one of the challenges they had them do, they had to work in a high-end kitchen. So they had to, another one was, I forgot, another one was a crazy one. But then they phoned me and we did one for Germany where we got the coaches to learn stand-up comedy in 1 hour, like write a routine, 5-minute routine, and then perform it in front of an actual crowd. This was mad. So you get all these crazy challenges. So what you get out of that is not just them fighters in fight mode, you get them like out of their comfort zone. So then you get their personalities. So these fighters that I saw in this card, where you got this 9-12 versus 9-9, when they walked out, they were gods. They were like, they came out and the crowd popped so much. And now I thought, right, that's why they're this high up on the card. But the reason, even if the records aren't great, even if they're not the best fighters in the world, the personalities have been given to the fans, that the story has, and that's what they embrace. And it's nice as well. There's a difference in what I found from Oktagon and when fighters come in from abroad to fight the home fighter. Like there's one guy called, and I've forgotten his surname, Alonan Kumalana. He's a Finnish fighter, crazy look. He's got like a hippie look. He comes out, he walks out to the cage in fish flip-flops, kind of looks scruffy, but he's a great fighter. He's a good personality. And as he walked out, the fans gave him a huge cheer. Like not as in like we're right behind you, but they liked him. They let him know we like him. And even though he lost the fight, he got a massive, like as he left the cage, round of applause. And you kind of you look at that and that's what you want from your fans, right? That's what I would like to take my daughter to, a show where I'm not worried if I'm sat between certain fighters' fans. Whereas with Oktagon, you sit there and you watch how the fans respect the fighters. They love the guys coming over, and all you got to do is give it your all in that cage, and you walk out, and when I do my interviews, I always ask people what messages they get from the Czech, the Slovakian fans, and it's great because they've all got a story, they've all got messages about. So for me, that's a really nice side of what Oktagon do.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to the first episode of Oktagon Hype, something that Pavel Neruda said was that almost every year someone comes in with an offer to buy Oktagon, and obviously that's kind of, I don't want to touch on it too much, but do you think that for the promotion to grow even further, it might take someone else to come in and not buy it completely, but even just a bit more investment to kind of get it on that national scale?
I think when you look at businesses, you kind of go, well, that's what they need. As in, like, if you look on the outside and you think for that business to go from feed like a national company to a global company, maybe you need something like that. But there is something very different about what Pavel and Andre do and how they work together. And I think that dynamic that they've created, and again, they weren't, before this started, they knew of each other, but they weren't working together. They kind of, Pavel said in the interview on Oktagon Hype 1, how they came about. He was thinking about doing this project. He approached Andre and they kind of said, let's go. And that was 2016. But when you sit with them, and this again is something where when I'm working with them, that kind of is inspiring. You sit and they make these plans. Like they half joked over a glass of wine about this halftime show.
Yeah.
Then it's there. They told me, like, they said, we're thinking about going to Germany, and like Germany's a difficult market because for some reason it's not quite accepted.
No.
MMA is not embraced in Germany yet. They've got great fighters. They're a very sporting, athletic nation. But for some reason, MMA has got this perception like it's still like a backwards perception of what it is. And they went, we're going to Germany. And I was like, they won't go. And then the next thing you know, we're going to Germany, and they've sold more than the UFC last sold when they went into Germany. So for me, if you were to talk in simple business terms, I'd go, yeah, we need a bigger investor, and that would be it. But actually being inside, seeing the dynamics, seeing how it works, I think anything that would affect the dynamic of those two and the way they work and the way they take risks, because they take massive risks, huge risks with what they do as far as the money or booking a 20,000 seat arena and not knowing if they're going to have a fight to fill it or whatever else. I think I just wouldn't want anyone to sort of get in the way of how they work together, because the reason they're so big, and I said this to them, they said, we're thinking about, if it's going to be in English, we're going to go into England, we'll change the whole thing, we'll get an English announcer, we'll do that. And I said, stop. It's got to be you two. It has to be you two, because that is why they've got so far. It's the dynamic they've got. It's the willingness to take the risks, and it's the vision. They've got this combined vision, and they're very different people, but they've got this combined vision, and there's nothing that they're not willing to try and do to push it. So, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Obviously in mid-September, the Oktagon 35 card is returning. Well, not returning, but playing out. It's another card that's littered with extremely fascinating matchups and fighters. Put the fans onto it now instead of the fans seeing it and having to see it after the event. Put them on now and tell them what a matchup or a fighter they should be looking out for on that one is.
Well, first of all, it's going back to Bruno in Prague. I'm going to shut this door because there's kids just screaming.
Yeah, no, that's fine, mate. No worries.
Sorry, mate. And when I say kids screaming in a good way, they're having fun.
Yeah.
There's not kids being
of course.
murdered out. So,
they're having a water fight.
That's right. They're having a water fight outside. So we're in Brno, which was the place that they did all their lockdown shows. So Brno is something where in Oktagon it's very special. It's a city that kind of looked after the promotion, and it was the way they kept that. They had this hotel, and it's like their fight island. They had this little hotel which they'd locked down with a nice venue, and that's kind of how the fights kept rolling. Now they're going into the big stadium in Brno. So again, I think it's 14,000 people. And it's kind of them giving back to the city. So they've got a number of fighters on there that I think throughout lockdown really shone. So You've got Karol Rishavi taking on František Fodor. They're both established names. They both come from Slovakia as well. So there's this inter-gym rivalry between the two. They're both fantastic fighters. Like Rishavi, his jiu-jitsu game is great. He submitted a guy called Mate Kuznik, who is a very tough, durable fighter. And he did it in like 1 minute, 36 seconds. And it was the way he caught him that made me just realize how clever this guy is in the cage. He finished Marek Bartel in like a grudge match as well. These two have been at each other on social media. They've been wanting to fight each other for so long. And he put a beat down on him. Like, it was one of those where they stand up and they're covered in each other's blood, but everything's left in the cage. They embraced, and it was one of those sporting moments where it was kind of left there. Then you got František Fodor, who is just, he's a scary dude, because if he touches you on the chin, you're in trouble, absolutely in trouble. So for me, that's the fight that is one to watch if people don't know some of the fighters. Some of the fighters they might know, especially from Europe, is the main event. You've got Patrick Kinsell. So he's fought for KSW before, fought for ACB before. He's a beast. He's the champion now. He took the championship off of Pirat Kristofic in a 5-round mauling. Controlled him with the grappling. Got tired in the 5th round, but it was so far ahead by that point and it was a total display of putting the fight wherever he wanted it, however he wanted it, and just showed how world class he is. But he's coming up against Alex Lahore, and Alex is well known for being BAMA champion. He had a good run, the Killer Kid, as he was called back then. And he's unique. He's so unique, because I've been around him. I've got no idea who he trains with. I really don't. I don't know who he trains with. But he's been in there against Carlos Vermola, Leandro Apollo Silva. He's somebody who's so skilled, and you kind of go, you wonder what it'd be like if he was in a big camp, or if he had, 2 or 3 really high-level training partners around him. So from what I've seen, a lot of his training happens with like people, his friends, his mates. He's got a thing out in his backyard where he does his fitness and strength and conditioning. But he's so dangerous. He is deceptively good on the ground, excellent footwork, excellent movement, cardio for days as well. And this is one of the factors that I'm really interested in with the Kinsell fight, because Kinsell got tired in the 5th round. If Lahore can make him work harder in those first 2-3 rounds, he can really put it on him. And he's one of those Nate Diaz types where he gets stronger as the fight goes on, and he's always dangerous. So there's two fights that, if you are thinking about tuning in, those are the ones that I'd recommend you. It's worth the pay-per-view alone.
Yeah. And then that's another thing I want to touch on, obviously, before I let you go. Let the UK based fans know how can they watch the Oktagon cards?
Yeah, it's now on oktagon.tv, so it's their platform, and it's dead easy. Go on oktagon.tv. If you are on a UK IP address, it all comes up in English. It's about $5.99 a month if you want to sign up to that, as in the monthly subscription. So it's their version of Netflix for fighting, Fight Pass, exactly. And they've got some great other promotions on there, and then you can buy the pay-per-views as well for the other fights, and it's it'll be under £10. You're talking about £8 for a fight card, which, when you're looking at some of the prices you can pay for pay-per-views, and the other thing that happens, and it's probably not the way I should tell people to go and find out, but we put them up on YouTube. We put them up for everybody to watch, with English commentary, with Czech commentary, and they go up about 10 days after the fights. So on our YouTube channel, so YouTube Oktagon UK and Ireland, that has got all the fights from Oktagon 34 that we talked about from that arena, Oktagon 33 in Frankfurt, which was just another great event. You can jump back and you can watch some and just see the quality of the fights, and that might tease you in. And the same again on the that channel is where Oktagon Hype will go out every 2 weeks. We'll be pushing that out and hopefully spoon feeding people some beautiful violence, my friend.
100%, man. And what can the fans expect for the next episode of Oktagon Hype?
So it's great. I get to, So on the last episode, I introduced people to kind of the size of the events, the quality of the production. Carlos Vermola as this unique champion, like the Conor McGregor of Oktagon. the Terminator, and yeah, his walkout alone was worth being there for. So the next episode, I'm starting to introduce people to the fighters, and not just the fighters, but the champions. And again, this is the bar, I think, that shows that we're world class, because the champions, the people that hold our belts, are so good. They are world class fighters. You got Lozan Kieta, who's undefeated, just beat Ivan Buchinger back in Frankfurt, Oktagon 33. He was 9-0. So Buchinger had 39 more fights than him. Buchinger got turned pro in 2007, Kieta 2019. But it's that whole thing of old guard, new guard, and Lozan Kieta, he's amazing. Jonas Magard as well. We speak to him and have a little look at him. And then I also have a chat with two-time UFC heavyweight world champion Frank Mir, who was at the event in Frankfurt, because he saw Lozan Kieta claim that title, and he gives his sort of views on Oktagon, what he thinks the potential are, and all that sort of stuff.
Sounds perfect, mate. And I love what yourself and Oktagon are doing as a whole. It's fascinating to watch, and I really hope that more MMA fans do kind of start delving into it. And I'm sure Oktagon Hype is a perfect way for, like you said, them to be spoon-fed kind of a way into it.
Spoon-fed by a very, very excited middle-aged guy who's probably 100%. Watched too many fights.
But that's the best way to be spoon-fed, by someone that knows exactly what he's on about.
I love it. The other teaser that we do talk about in episode 1 is over the next 12 months, we are looking to try and get shows over here as well. So, and I think the UK, obviously PFL is here now, UFC, Bellator, you've obviously got Cage Warriors, but I think the thing we're missing is that storytelling. 100%. You look at some of the cards that get dropped, and they're great cards and great fights, and I know a lot of the fighters, but you just wish that we had more to kind of get into them, 100%. Who they are, what they're about. So that's kind of the teaser for the next 12 months, my man. So hopefully we'll get you at one of the events. We'll get you to see it live. That would be amazing.
I'd absolutely love to. Absolutely. But yeah, I don't want to keep you for any longer, mate. The weather. Go and enjoy it, mate. Go and enjoy it.
Right, there's a water fight that's just dying down, so I'm going to go in there and absolutely bombard, smash up some 8-year-olds.
That sounds perfect.
Take home my championship belt and enjoy the evening, mate. All right.
Perfect,
thank you for
mate.
your time.
I appreciate your time a lot, mate.
All the best.
Have a good night, mate.
Cheers.